Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Decentralized Chain is for Oz, bringing you all things blockchain. So in today's episode, we are going to be kicking off with an interview with one of the founders from RAMP Defi, Lawerence Lim, talking all about their product. But before we do and sort of go into a brief intro about what it's about, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss my upcoming episodes. Also, make sure you stay tuned to the very end, as I'll be revealing details of how you can bag yourself $100 worth of Tether by just participating in the video and on the Twitter campaigns. Right, now, let's go back to RAMP Defi. I'm going to be talking to Lawerence Lim, who's one of the founders, and ultimately RAMP DeFi is looking at really taking your staked assets and releasing liquid capital from it. So what does that actually mean? I mean, if we look at it in terms of a more traditional sense, think of it as a collateralized product, maybe something similar to a reverse mortgage where you put your house up for collateral and in return you get capital. Now, if you look at how that works, you still own the underlying asset, you can still rent out the property and gain income from it, but at the same time, you're also able to unlock liquid capital to invest or use as you wish. So if you want to get the underlying asset back, then you pretty much do it in the reverse process, pay off the loan taken, and then you're good to go. So, if you wanted to compare RAMP DeFi to something traditional, that's kind of what it is. But let's jump into the interview and let Lawerence take us through exactly what the project is about and take it from there.
Lawerence, thank you for coming onto the show. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day. I can see your Telegram's pretty much blowing up left, right, and center. But I mean, man, before we jump in, Lawerence, I mean, why don't you tell me a bit about yourself, man? I mean, what are you doing outside of crypto when you're not busy sort of leading, RAMP DeFi?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Thank you, Firas. Thank you for inviting me over to Decentralized Chain. It's a pleasure to be here and with your viewers. So perhaps I will give a quick introduction of myself, how I somehow ended up in this crypto space. It's a fairly interesting story. So I actually, post-graduation, I actually started in the financial sector. So I did private banking and corporate M&A for 4 to 5 years. And then I actually did a career switch into tech. So that was like, a pretty big jump because, finance is very stable and then tech is all that cowboy, but at the time, it looks super exciting because we are seeing multi-million, multi-billion-dollar exits, right, in tech, and that's really a bit more of an entrepreneurial vision that I want to pursue. So after jumping into tech, I was actually with a startup in inventory management solutions. At that time, I interacted with crypto as an investor.
Okay.
Me and my brother, we actually invested into a crypto exchange startup, but it didn't work out.
chasing those gains, huh?
chasing those gains. So that was in like late 2017. Late 2017. That was the boom, right? That was the boom.
Yeah.
And but it's actually a failed investment, but it sparked off my interest in crypto. So I started researching and started going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And then I ended up joining a company called IOST that was building a layer 1 infrastructure, essentially a bigger, better, faster version of Ethereum. I ended up being with them for 2 years. And I seen the whole entire life cycle and building of a crypto project. I was with them since pre-testnet to testnet to launching mainnet to onboarding over 300 nodes into our ecosystem and having staked assets of over 30 million. So it's extremely educational. And then, after that, I decided to come out to work on my own project, which is what eventually became RAMP DeFi today.
Okay, so I mean, so what is RAMP DeFi exactly? I mean, what hole did you see in the market that you needed to sort of plug?
Yes, so I'll just try to also explain a little bit about where the crypto market is today. Over the last 2 years, actually, investors have poured a lot of capital into what we call the staking economy. Essentially, staking in crypto just means that you own tokens of a particular blockchain and you lock it up in order to receive rewards. So it's recurring, it's almost like a bond. So what happened is that this capital has accumulated, and the entire amount of assets that's locked up in staking right now is 22 billion USD.
Yeah.
So I think the key is that all this assets and capital is locked there, and it is to a certain extent not very productive, because you put in $1 and then you are making, say, maybe 8 cents, 10 cents back every year. And in crypto, where it's high risk, high rewards, this isn't the sort of returns that investors should be chasing. You can get this in bonds, in equities, right? Less risky.
So it's a valid point, actually, because I'll be honest, it's good you mentioned that topic, because I mean, it depends how much you have locked up in crypto, right? I mean, if you've been around for a while and you've accumulated, a lot of Ethereum or whatever it might well be, and you're just holding, I think, yeah, it's fine, because the gains aren't bad. I suppose gains aren't bad, but I mean, they're quite low in comparison to what people have been used to. I think people have got greedy in crypto as well over the years, because a lot of people see, all right, well, I'm 10xing, I'm 15xing. And the funny thing is, if you, from a regular retail perspective, i.e. someone who's not in crypto, man, they'd be happy with like 3 or 4% in the current climate that we're in, right? I mean, even in the UK, I think the best performing ISA that we have is paying out, not ISA, the best performing sort of bond that we have available to the public is paying around 1.14%. Like, it's nothing, right? But,
yeah.
I think there clearly is an opportunity, and I think there clearly is an opportunity to have more in terms of back from what you're doing.
Exactly. And I think, in crypto, because it's high risk as well,
yeah,
the chances of you losing, all your capital is higher, definitely, compared to other products. So, I think the expectations of high returns is also there. So I think the key is that these returns are not so exciting. And we realize that there's an opportunity cost in this for investors. Mm-hmm. So what we want to do is essentially to use all these staked assets as collateral to create a stable coin that can be used to essentially as a fungible value to interact with the rest of the ecosystem. And what users can expect from this is that they can still retain ownership of all the staked assets that they have built up over time. They will still continue to receive their staking rewards. And at the same time, they extract what we call liquid capital from this derivative stablecoin that we created. Mm-hmm. So it's really what we think, allowing users to have their cake and eat it at the same time.
Gotcha. And I mean, who's it really targeted for then? Because, there's those that have a lot locked up in crypto, and to be honest, those who have that greater quantity do make better rewards even on the smaller numbers. Whereas those who are kind of getting into crypto maybe only have a few Ethereum for themselves. I would say they're stuck in a slight bit of a conundrum, because it's, do I stake my Ethereum on something that gives me little to no reward back because I'm still hodling, or do I, you've kind of got the other ones where you convert it into stable coins, which do give much higher reward back. But then the risk there is that if there is a slippage in terms of how much Ethereum is today versus tomorrow, and then you decide to, say, right, I want to go back into Ethereum, and if the price of Ethereum has gone up, then in effect, you could end up with a net loss overall as well, right?
Yes, correct. So I think that's what are the, I would say, issues and capital deployment decisions that investors have to be making. To be, whether you want to be exposed to the movement of a particular asset's value. Mm-hmm. So I think just from this perspective, what we try to offer at RAMP is actually to allow investors to carry on retaining this exposure, because they would only retain this exposure if they have the expectation that this portfolio will eventually rise in value. And this portfolio is actually being used as collateral, and to support the creation and minting of a stable coin, and which has value because underlying it there's a portfolio of real assets.
Got it.
So I think in that sense we allow, to a certain extent, investors to have multiple layers of exposure, which of course, is again a double-edged sword, as with everything. The key is that the more exposure you get, of course, the higher risk you take.
Risk,
but yes, but of course, the greater rewards that you can enjoy.
Yeah. Okay, understood. Right. Okay. So, I mean, I'm curious as to how, what one of the fundamental issues that I find in crypto as a general is actually adoption, right? I mean, without adoption, you tend to not really get that far. Exchanges, all of those types of platform, they have adoption, they have traders, they have people wanting to, make more, and that's fine. And they have user interfaces which are, decent, robust, fairly intuitive to use, maybe not the best in the market, but they're there. And certainly with all these other types of platforms and protocols and layering solutions that kind of fit around the periphery, they don't necessarily have a sexy UI or anything like that in order to entice a user in, or in order to get them to use more of their product. So I'm just curious, how do you tackle your adoption problem? How do you draw or attract the users for it, so as you will? Because there's two types of people in crypto, in all honesty, and somewhere between the lines that they mix. There's one that's always chasing the gains. There's one that's always looking for the next project to invest in, flip, and continue to grow their sort of asset base. And there'll be those who will be interested in RAMP Defi to make a quick buck, if we put it bluntly. And then there are going to be those who see the value in RAMP Defi, the value in the assets that they hold, that they could ultimately stake and then gain further rewards. So I'm curious, how does your adoption strategy work in this? How do you attract those to kind of stay with you through the long run?
Right. That's a great question. And I think when we see as adoption, I think there's a multifaceted, I think a lot of people simply look at adoption as marketing strategy, but actually I look at adoption as product. Because why product? Because the product is what creates value for users, is the product that solves problems. And what we realize is that even if a product doesn't have exceptional UI or is very inefficient, for example, Ethereum, all the action in decentralized finance right now is happening on Ethereum, despite the extraordinarily high gas fees. People are there, and why? Because it's the product. Ethereum itself may not directly solve users' problems, but the products that users want to access are on Ethereum, and they have to use Ethereum for it. And I think that's the best example. So for me, I look at it as like, users will adopt our solution if we are solving a genuine and real problem for them. And I think, I would use another example, which is that you mentioned centralized exchanges. I think, in the past couple of years, centralized exchanges have a very strong, I would call it, hold over the user base. Yeah. All the action, passes through the centralized exchanges. They are really the heart of the entire business, right? Mm-hmm. But and a lot of what we call high yield products actually don't get that sort of exposure to users for the simple fact that there's no liquidity. The exchanges don't really offer this to users, and so DeFi, decentralized finance, was quiet for quite some time until actually a product called Uniswap came out. Yeah. What Uniswap offer is what they call continuous liquidity. Essentially, anyone can be guaranteed liquidity when they go to Uniswap, which is totally different from the order book that you can find on a centralized exchange. And this means that suddenly all these high yield products, all these products that can allow people to make abnormal returns, go onto Uniswap, and users flock there because they see opportunities. Yeah. So it's product. And I think that's really how and why adoption should and can happen, and that's what we see at RAMP Defi as well. We see that if you are able to unlock value for users, if you have $10 million, you're a high net worth, your investment fund, you have 10 million locked up in a product that you can just actually just almost similar to like being in the bond markets. How can you extract more value from this portfolio and invest into more opportunities, leverage your capital, increase capital efficiency? Then, I think if you're able to do that well for our users, then adoption will come by itself.
Okay. So, I mean, and I suppose moving on from adoption and slightly related to it, and I know you dropped sort of Uniswap in there as well. I mean, I wouldn't say that you're the first to tackle this in this space. I suppose you do have others, whether you want to call them competitors or whether you want to call them relationships within the DeFi space. I mean, there's Carver, there's Akala, there's Unit Protocol, which are similar to what you're doing. I mean, how similar are they, and where do you sort of pivot away from them in order to become the edge, so to speak?
Yeah, for sure. I think there are definitely always similar projects, and I think it's inevitable. I think we are also, I would say, put it in this way, climbing up the mountain, but going different routes, the same mountain, different routes. And I think, I don't think there's any, I would say, one correct solution, because I think eventually, we'll all find our own niche and be able to offer a very specific product and offering to a particular group of users who is looking for something at a very specific point in time. I think, what is different for us, at least, is that, we actually have created a model where users can firstly pay less fees. We do away with, certain fees like stability fees, etc., that, are present in many of these collateralization stablecoin projects. I think a second thing is that, we are very focused on what we call liquidity value exchange, which means that, although you have a portfolio of assets, what we want to do is to redefine this portfolio into something fungible as that stable coin. And this stable coin basically represents something that can be very easily exchanged, because there are certain projects that take one asset, bring it over to Ethereum, but you're just moving the asset. But if you have 10 different assets, then how do you define a value for this portfolio? So we actually have to define a value, which makes it very easy for a one-to-one exchange with liquid capital like USDT, USDC. So that's where we are really focusing, and we call this the liquidity on ramp.
Okay, got it.
Very similar to like fiat on ramps, from like fiat into crypto, like from a portfolio of assets, liquidity into the ecosystem. So that's what also gave rise to our name, RAMP Defi.
Okay, no, that makes sense, which is good to know where the name came from as well, actually. So I mean, talking about RAMP Defi, the organization as a whole, and more we're looking at now sort of the team, the partners, and your goals, I suppose. And I was going through your website, and obviously there's quite a few accomplishments noted, and I'm curious in terms of what are some of the notable features that you have, not from a product perspective, but from a people perspective. Who are the people behind RAMP Defi? What sort of I suppose it gives you the thinking or the thought process to think, right, well, we've got a winning team, we're on our way, I would like to say to the top, like most people will aim for. Because, and the reason I say that is when I looked at your website, it was difficult to ascertain from my perspective anyway. Who are your advisors? What is your background work experience? Because it felt like they were both mixed together. And what I saw was a lot of names, like your JP Morgans of the world, which are impressive. I worked for JP Morgan myself in the past as well. And then we see some of the names in the advisors. So I'm just trying to get through that spaghetti, so to speak, and actually see what is what. So let's start with your team, right? I mean, what are some of the individuals in your team well known for throughout this industry?
Yeah. For sure, and maybe I will also cover our team as as team and how we are what's the composition. And I think that's the important part.
Yeah.
So I think I would say that our team right now is divided half as marketing, front-facing, commercial business development kind of experience, and the other half is technical. right? And then for the marketing side, actually, we all came from having spent like say 2 to 3 years in the blockchain space.
Yeah.
2 to 3 years is not long, but at the same time, that's really the more hotter period.
It's funny you said it because even though you say 2 to 3 years is not long, it reminds you of that meme in Interstellar where the chaps have gone down to the planet, and even though they've only been there for like 2-3 hours, it's like 10 hours has passed. It's like 10 years has passed in the real world, basically, so to speak. But crypto's like that, right? I mean, in all honesty, it's fast moving. 2 to 3 years is quick.
It's a long time. Well, I think I would say that 2 to 3 years is not long, but longer than many.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So yeah, I know it does, and crypto is really 24/7. I think that's the beauty of it. Yeah. It's so fast paced. So always learning. So we spend that. We have that sort of experience. We have seen different market cycles, which I think is very important.
Yeah.
Because I think that helps us to sort of draw from past experiences on how things would work, things would change, and help to really bring forward a better vision for our community and users, hopefully. And then, I would say the second composition is actually technical. And I think that's where, we have actually a breadth, actually a diversity of experiences that I think makes us also quite different from other teams, which is that, we have a focus on, I would say 3 key areas: development, security, and product. So development, of course, this is a blockchain project. Yeah. You have to be developing smart contracts. I think there's no questions about having good, strong technical development skills on the team. Security, especially important, I feel, in DeFi, because there's so many exploits, vulnerabilities happen, and so much money was lost. And I think it is even more important because it is a little bit more vanilla. People phishing for stealing user information, hacking into wallets, stealing money from exchanges. That was then the ICO, and now it's gotten more sophisticated. We have seen like cash loans, all these things. Like I have to call it innovation. I have to call it innovation.
It's bad, but it's impressive nonetheless. In all honesty, some of the BZRX exploits, the flash loans from there, and there's been quite a few flash loan exploits, really, to be honest. And ultimately, it's an exploit. I mean, it's bad, but impressive the way it happens.
Exactly, that's real innovation, to be fair.
Yeah.
Not in like an ethical way, but it's there.
Give credit where it's due, right?
yeah. So I think especially for that, we are extremely focused on, and in fact, like even for, in a sense, more manual human sort of thing, like there's been a couple of projects that also have in a sense human hacks by getting impersonation, fake links that delivers you the identical website where you send money into other accounts. So all these things can and should be avoided. We want to avoid that for our community 100%. So that's the second portion we are very focused on. And the third portion is product. And I think product is very key for us as well, because it's about design. And when we say design, it means that how can we create RAMP Defi, and there's a few actually different products within the RAMP Defi ecosystem that we are building. In a sense, we are productizing the ecosystem, specific products to deliver very specific functions that can give very specific outcomes. So having that focus on product, allows us to streamline the design into basically create something that we are not building it away from our objective. So I think that's very important. It creates lightweight smart contracts. Doesn't need to be heavy, complex infrastructure that send information across chains in like 10,000 different ways. That's not what we want to build. We want to be very focused. There's very specific goal here, which is to unlock liquidity, and it can be done with a very efficient design. So product is very important for us. So we are really composed like this. On the team side, we all have, I would say, have pretty diverse backgrounds, across blockchain, banking, finance, technology, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity. And I think is this mix of experience, even from those who hasn't been in blockchain before, is important because they see things that someone who's been inside doesn't see. And that's
exactly
critical for us. Yeah.
So, I mean, all of this in terms of the expertise and all the areas that you've mentioned, it all requires some form of capital, right? It doesn't happen out of thin air. So let's talk about raising capital and sort of tokenomics, so to speak. And as I mentioned earlier, right, there's two types of users. There's ones that are in it for what RAMP Defi are all about, and there are others that are in it to see how much money they can make before they move on to the next project. And obviously we're not talking about speculation here, but I am curious in terms of, and I'm sure our viewers are curious, pre-sale, private sale, Moon. I mean, what is your raise, or what has your raise been, and what are the next steps, or what's left for the raises?
Good question. So I think I would cover the first raise that we had. Is actually we raised from private investors, such as venture capital funds. So we raised just over $1 million from them. And I think the product and our white paper was very well received. Our investment interest was actually 15 times oversubscribed. And I think partially this has to do with how the DeFi market is taking off, for sure.
Yes, of course.
A lot of our investors are pretty known and prominent names like Alameda Research, backed by FTX, XRP, Arrington Capital, Parafi Capital. So and I think 10 other VCs. So the key is that we have chosen all of them for their strategic value. We are not doing a big raise, which is very different from the old ICO days.
No, of course.
Like 50, 100 million even.
No. Nowadays, I'd raise my eyebrow at anybody raising more than 5 million, to be honest. But certainly lower than that. And then you've had your seed rounds. There's sort of pre-sales or privates still going, or are they everything's all locked in now and you're ready for the next stage of public?
Exactly. So it's all locked in. It was done pretty fast, like in less than a week. So, and all our strategic investors have actually already started connecting us with different blockchain projects and other staking pools and stuff to implement the solution. So this has been super helpful because when we are a lean team, we are running on very I would call it limited resources, because we raised 40 million. So our investors are actually key for us to access certain networks, and to reduce the sort of friction required to get quick. So the private sale is done. The next one is actually the public sale, which should be happening in the next 2 weeks. So this will be a very exciting time. We are very excited to get the tokens into the hands of our community. The public sale will be unlocked just to also provide a bit more clarity. The private sale tokens have a lockup period, with periodic releases over 1 year. So for the long term, we make sure that they are vested, have vested interest in the project. And, the public sale is unlocked, for everyone to participate. I think, beyond that, and I felt like, beyond just about the capital raise and whether it's private or public sale, what's important is that actually for RAMP Defi, we kept aside 45% of our total token supply for what we call stake farming.
Got it.
Which is basically for users to participate in our ecosystem. And it actually break up this supply farming reserves into different pools, which incentivize users to participate. So the more you participate, the more tokens you can actually farm from these reserves. Just as a very simple example, you send your assets into our smart contract, you straight away start to farm tokens. And then the next thing, if you collateralize it into a stable coin, check the box, more tokens, farm more tokens, lending and borrowing on our platform. Great. You're participating super hard, earn more tokens. Yeah, and then all of these tokens will actually be receiving rewards from our fee accrual pool, and to be distributed. Yeah.
So you kind of jumped ahead to, or what I was going to ask actually, because we're talking about tokens. So in terms of actually, so what does it mean to be a token holder? It's really more of a revenue generation more than anything else, right?
Right. I think I'd like to see it in a few different ways. So this is where I think we get into what they call the utility of a token.
Yes. What is the utility of the token?
Yes, and I think this is super important. And in RAMP Defi, the utility of the token cover 3 key aspects. The first one is governance. So token holders can stake their tokens and raise proposals to adjust certain parts of the protocol, whether, for example, is the interest rates, or how certain programs are being executed and done, this is essentially community governance. And I think this is very important, especially when you talk about crypto, decentralized organizations. So this is the first function. The second function is, we have this product called the R pool, which basically for all the interest fees that's been generated, for all the staking rewards generated, a small cut is taken and all accumulated into this R pool. And users who stake the RAMP token will actually receive distributions. So this is actually a huge network effect because we give RAMP tokens for people to stake their assets through us, and then in return, this increased the amount of distributions given to RAMP token holders, which increases the value of RAMP tokens, which increases the amount, which increases the yield that they have when they mine it. So it's a positive cycle, and then. So this is actually very key for us, and I think this is also one thing that we believe can help to slow down or encourage investors to be a bit more sticky with our token, because they know that there is a real business model, revenue stream, powering the entire economic cycle. And then I think the last one is also something very interesting, is a new mechanism we have developed, which is that if you stake your tokens, so for example, you stake tokens, RAMP tokens, and you start to farm with $10,000, and I didn't, but I also farm with the same capital, $10,000, I'll get less tokens than you because you're more vested. You have staked, you are vested, you farm with a higher farming power. You have a higher farming power. Yeah, so we use this to encourage users once again, to invest themselves into the ecosystem, stake it, and you are better than the next guy.
Interesting way to, I suppose, make sure users stick with you more than anything else. And stickiness is important in any product anyway. Regardless of whether it's a DeFi product or a regular consumer product, you need to have that sticking point for your consumers to kind of use that platform and continue to use that platform rather than deviate or navigate away. Interesting. So impressive so far, and I think maybe we're drawing to an end here. One of the key things that I see here with any project is community, right? It's community can ultimately lift a project up, or bring it down to his knees, right? So I'm just curious, what plans do you have for the community to keep them engaged? Like you're not here today just to create a product and then some I've seen, and I'll be honest, I've seen some projects in the past where we've done it, we've created it, now we've handed it back to the community, and the founders are nowhere to be seen. They're most really on a boat somewhere enjoying a relaxing life, but what does it really mean for you in terms of community, and how do you plan to keep them with you for the long haul, really?
Yeah, that's actually a very interesting question, because actually, if you are doing something like a decentralized project, then at some point, the project, I would say the project team should consider how to, hand it over to the community for decentralized governance. But in a way that, of course, at the time the product has to be completed.
Yes,
it must be done, and then you hand it over that. Then I do think that makes sense. After all, this would really fit into the decentralized governance ethos that that has been really driving the crypto philosophy. So I think beyond that, what's important is that especially, as we progress along the project's roadmap, we need to be very transparent with the community. The programs, for example, if you launch a particular program, the reasoning behind why this program was launched and everything, should be explained so that, a community has that visibility on why certain things were being done. And then the next thing would be progress. Progress would be, on the project, being able to ship products, being able to get partnerships, and then getting this, visibility back to our community and users. I think as always, as a user, as a supporter of a particular project, you want to know that things are getting done.
Yeah,
it's very simple.
Of course.
Yeah, you want to know that the project is progressing. So, we have to be giving this sort of updates to the community on a regular basis, so that everyone, is excited, stay excited about the project. I think these are some of the key things that we'll be doing for sure, to constantly, make sure the community is there with us, supporting us. And of course, here now and then, we must also be running incentive programs.
Of course.
For users who have been staying with us for, across, years, building a product, it's not easy. And I think, this level of support should always be rewarded. So, definitely, I think these three things: transparency, progress, incentives.
Well, look, it's good to see you've got your communities back. I mean, before we wrap up this interview, which has been absolutely fantastic, by the way, any last thoughts you want to share with our viewers? What should we be waiting for? What's the next big thing that's gonna put a smile on everyone's face?
Yeah, for sure. I really enjoyed the interview today as well. So I would say, the next few big things to watch out for over the next 3 to 4 weeks. Firstly, the public sale.
Yeah.
Secondly, we have lots of partnerships waiting to be announced, not announcing yet, just fixing things up and, slowly releasing it to the community. And I think, the third one would be watching out for new farming programs to be released, on different blockchains where users can participate and, really building that whole ecosystem, up for the RAMP Defi community. So I think these three things would be what you can watch for. And I think to follow on any of these updates, users can join us either on Twitter. Our handle is @RAMDefi, or in our Telegram is the group is called @RAMDefiOfficial. So we'll definitely appreciate whoever has watched this video to just come follow us and see what's happening.
Descriptions in the link below, so don't worry, they'll find a way to it. Well, Lawerence, thank you, man, for taking the time today. Really appreciate it, and all the best of luck with the project. To be honest, it sounds like you've got a pretty cool proposition on your hands, and maybe I might stake my 1,000 F that I've accumulated. Just joking, but I'll definitely check out the platform and look at staking. Cheers, Lawerence.
Thanks, Firas. Appreciate it, and thank you so much for the interview. Cheers.
Bye.
Right, so I hope you enjoyed the interview. Certainly an interesting project, one worth looking out for. Would love to see how it performs once it's out on the open market. Now, if you stuck around this long, then clearly you're after the $100 worth of Tether. So very simple in terms of how you enter. There's 2 places it can be done. You can double your chances on both. First place is YouTube, so don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. And similarly on Twitter, go ahead and retweet, like, tag a friend, leave a comment, and I will announce a winner on Twitter. Just make sure you leave your details so I can contact you so you can get the Tether. And that's it. See you on the next one.